there are approximately 2.5 billion users that WhatsApp serves to.
2 hours later.
Okay, so let's start with WhatsApp system design. This is basically a high-level design for a system for messaging such as WhatsApp. So in order to understand how does system design work, especially in case of a system such as WhatsApp, it's very important to understand where do we start from. While doing a high-level design interview, it is very important to understand what is the ask in an interview, because generally the high-level design interviews are open-ended. So we'll start generally with discussing the functional requirements with the interviewer. So confirm what are those functional requirements that we need to keep in mind while designing this system. So in case of WhatsApp system design, following are the functional requirements which we are considering. First is one-to-one chat. So WhatsApp as a system allows one user to chat with another. There is another feature called group chat, wherein we can have a group which can contain up to 250 members, and then all these members can have a chat simultaneously into a group which is across the group. That means if a user 1 is sending a message, it is delivered to all the users and it is visible to all the users based on their availability. Similarly, another functional requirement can be if we could share text, images and videos or any other documents like we do in WhatsApp. So this is also an important part of WhatsApp system design, that we should allow sharing of text and any other sort of media as well, which is very common these days. And one more requirement which generally we have seen that has got emphasis while designing a system such as WhatsApp is read receipt and last seen. So in case if you are using WhatsApp, you might be aware that what is read receipt and how does it work. In case if you're not, so just for understanding the WhatsApp system design, let me explain. First, when user A sends message to user B and user A sends the message from their end, and when WhatsApp has received the message successfully on their server, it is then one gray tick is there. One gray tick means that the message has been successfully delivered to WhatsApp server but has not been yet delivered to the intended recipient. Now at this point in time, WhatsApp server will try to connect with user B for which this message is intended and will try to deliver this message. If WhatsApp server is able to deliver this message successfully to user B, then it becomes a double tick. Both of them are in gray. And let's say if the user B has read this message after opening the WhatsApp application on his device, then both the gray ticks turns into blue, which means that user A now gets notified that yes, your message has been seen by the user B. So these are 4 functional requirements which we will keep in mind. These are the technical requirements that we should focus on. So technical requirements are from the perspective as to how the system should work. So of course, because this is a real-time chat application, it should have low latency, high availability, of course. Why? Because system like WhatsApp, if it goes down for let's say even 15 minutes, then it becomes a news. No lag. This is very important. No lag, because chat application usually should work as good as a real-time application, so that user A feels that user B is being sent the message almost real time. Scalability, of course, is definitely a requirement, because you might know that there are approximately 2.5 billion users that WhatsApp serves to. Out of them, let's assume for the simplicity that 80% of the users are active, and there can be inactive accounts as well. And just for the scale purpose, let's consider that we are approx targeting 50 billion messages being sent on WhatsApp from any user to other user on daily basis. So these are some requirements which we need to keep in mind while trying to go for WhatsApp system design in a high level design interview.
A few minutes later.
Now let's go back to how does the system design will work like. Guys, do not look at this diagram right now, you might get confused. So we'll start from the basic. So let's assume that these are users who are connected through their device to WhatsApp. Now these are the end users. Okay. Now they are connected with WhatsApp server and they are connected via, let's say, a gateway or a load balancer. Why I'm saying that they are connected via gateway or load balancer is because one, user should not be shown, or user should not be aware of all the details of server side. Why? Because there should be single endpoint that should be available within the WhatsApp app, because this is on the client side and there can be reverse engineering which can be done around it. So this is where we should understand that every time we do a system design sort of for a large scale system, gateway will definitely be there. And another advantage of load balancer and gateway is that this is smart. This knows how to decide and how to route the request to internal systems which are there. Now next is the BFF layer. Now you might have seen a lot of videos on system design, but there are, I don't know, I have only seen maybe a few videos which covers this, but this is very important. So another layer which comes in is a BFF layer. BFF is backend for front end. So it's like, let's say any message which is coming in or going out from the app, they need not interact with the services that are there into wherein all sort of authorizations and authentications should work. Advantage of this sort of architecture is, one, take care of all the security issues at BFF layer, and you need not worry about carrying those heavy headers into the system throughout. So it's like every request which is coming in into BFF layer, there is an authentication service which is there. So authentication service is nothing but a microservice which is there. Say it is working on the basis of some header info which is provided. This is to ensure that the message is coming from the intended user. There is no modification being done to the message in any form when it is being transferred from user till the server. This is important, and there can be a concept of checksum etc. which we can use for it. Now authentication service is part of BFF, and there are WebSockets that we have introduced here, which will be interacting with the servers from the server side to the app. Why we have used WebSockets here is because we intend to do both ways call between the users and our application. This is where WebSockets will come into picture. We cannot use let's say HTTP request sort of thing here. Why? Because HTTP request is mostly from client to server. They are one-sided, so that means a client has to request a server, then only server can respond. Whereas in WebSockets, it's both ways. So the server can send some message on WebSocket. User can also provide the same back on WebSocket. WebSocket, I think, has a limit of around 65,000 odd connections per machine. So this should be auto scaling. So hence I have shown a lot of WebSockets onto the BFF layer. So this is BFF layer. Now next in the architecture is an identity service. Now identity service is connected to authentication service. So identity service is nothing but a service which maintains data such as login info etc. for user. This identity service can be used by authentication service to ensure that the user details such as user profile ID etc. are available. Identity service on backend is connected to Redis, and then Redis is connected to a database. Here we have used a key value sort of database because the data structure can be easily fit into this requirement that there will be a user profile ID or some sort of username, and based on that we can save entire details. Hence we have chosen MongoDB because this is suiting into the requirement. So identity service has a Redis layer so that we can respond back from cache the frequently used accounts. Here what we can do is, advantage of using Redis is that like we saw, only 80% users are active. So 20% of data we need not get from the database itself for the users in case if they are inactive. So this helps in better performance. Now after identity service, I have created a profile service. Profile service is basically a service which will store user information such as name and statuses, the normal status, the text status which is there on profile, which can be which has a history as well, and the user profile image and the name which should be shown to the user. So for this profile service we are using RDBMS. Why are we choosing RDBMS here? Because I think compared to identity service, profile service is not something which is called often, because identity service is connected to authentication service. That means we can have calls from identity service, like authentication service will be calling identity service too often for authenticating almost every message if needed, whereas profile service is only used when user sees their profile, or let's say somebody else is visiting your profile. Hence RDBMS is totally fitting into this requirement. We need not have a NoSQL sort of database everywhere, because it's like we should understand what sort of requirement it is, and then based on that we should try to design the system. Now profile service is also connected to what we call an attachment service. So attachment service is nothing but the service which is responsible for storing data, which is nothing but a cloud based hard drive, and can also have a content delivery network or a CDN for faster access of file. So attachment service is nothing but it will have an attachment ID, and will provide file corresponding to that. So profile service will be connected to attachment service for fetching user profile picture etc. And then there is one socket handler which is like a core. So socket handler is something which is going to decide which user is connected to what WebSocket. So for instance, let's say if user A is connected to WebSocket A and user B is connected to WebSocket B. So this is socket handler which has this entire information that how many users are connected to which socket and how it is working. Similarly, socket handler has a Redis which is available with them, and they are storing that information here. Now, why we have not created a database itself here? One, Redis will suit in the requirement, and two, this socket information will change readily. For instance, if let's say user A right now is online and is connected to, let's say, WebSocket A. This goes offline, and then we don't want this socket connection to be be there between the users. So in this case, what we will do is we'll reuse that WebSocket connection, and let's say next time user is coming back online, then they can connect to any other WebSocket. Of course, we need to understand that we need to avoid single point of failure here. So for this, we can have a Redis cluster here, so that if in case of failure of a Redis, then we can also mitigate the sort of risk which is there. So this socket handler will act like the most important part of our system. Then there are two services which are the core of WhatsApp. This is group messaging service and personal messaging service. So they are nothing but when user A sends a request to WebSocket, there can be two requests. One is a system request which comes in, and one is a user request. System request means this is nothing but a message which is being sent by WhatsApp app to ensure connectivity and to provide the information required by sys server. Whereas user message is like anything which is the activity done by user. So let's say if user A comes online, the moment it comes online, the app will send a request to acquire a WebSocket. WebSocket handler will provide back that what is the WebSocket it is connected to, and will also store this value into Redis. Now, based on this, we are aware at socket handler that this user is online. So let's say if user 2 goes online, again socket handler will be available, and now when user 2 is visiting profile of user 1, profile service, identity service will does their work. Socket handler will inform that this user is online based on information available in cache, and this is where we will show how, whether this user is online or not. Now let's get back to personal messaging service and group messaging service. Now in case of personal messaging service, this service is only going to be utilized for one-to-one messages, whereas group messaging will be used in case of WhatsApp groups, so that one message can be delivered to multiple. So understand it this way: user A now sends a message for user B. So this connects to a WebSocket, and WebSocket then provides back this message to, let's say, either a group messaging service or a personal messaging service. Now for example, let's consider that this is a personal one-on-one message which this A user is trying to send to B. So A sends the message, WebSocket receives it, sends back signal to A, showing that it's like an acknowledgement which was sent. So then A will show single tick on that message. Now WebSocket will go to socket handler and ask whether you have information about user B. If user B information is available, then WebSocket will go to, let's say, personal messaging or group messaging service, and then personal messaging service will store that message into Kafka in case if user is not online. In case if user is online, then they'll send this message to the WebSocket with which user B is connected. Let's assume that it is this socket which is connected to user B, and now user B, if WebSocket is able to send this to WebSocket B, the app will send an acknowledgement back to WebSocket, which is when WebSocket will inform personal messaging service as well that yes, this has been delivered, and then personal messaging service will in turn send this information back to A via their WebSocket. So this becomes a two-tick. Opens the app, system info which will flow into WebSocket, and then similarly the WebSocket will inform to socket handler will inform to the messaging service, and then messaging service will connect back to the WebSocket which is there via socket handler, and then this, let's say, the tick will become green. This, let's say, becomes green, that okay, the message has been read. So this is how it will work. Now at the back end there will be other services as well. We'll see how. So group messaging service is connected to group service. Group service is nothing but an extra service which will be there to ensure that attachments etc. are delivered correctly, and it will also store what are all the members who are there in this group. This again will be connected to RDBMS because of the sort of data which is there. We need not store everything and anything on the NoSQL sort database. And both of these services will also be connected to a Kafka queue, because let's say if the user is not available or online there, then Kafka will store that message temporarily for them, so that this message is not lost. And whenever this user comes back online, the message will be delivered. If in case we want to have a persistent sort of system, so in case of WhatsApp, it's like, let's say user A sends a message to user B is not online, then this message will be stored at Kafka, and let's say if user comes back in say 10 days, then the message will be delivered to them. After 10 days, WhatsApp does not store, because as per WhatsApp, you might have seen that they do not store your messages at their end. In case if you want to take a backup, they generally provide that feasibility to do it on cloud, such as Google Drive. So this is why we are storing this in Kafka. But in case if the interviewer asks that in a WhatsApp design interview that if you want to make it persistent, then you can also connect this to Hadoop, which will store this sort of database. Similarly, personal messaging service will also be connected to Kafka queue, and this mechanism will be stored. The reason why I have created group messaging service and personal messaging service differently is because the use case is a bit different. So let's say if user A sends a message to a group which is having 50 members and 10 of them are online, so Kafka needs to have that information as well, so they'll have their own topic which will store this info, that to whom this message has been delivered and to whom it has not been. And personal messaging service is only responsible for a one-on-one sort of chat. Now apart from this, let's say if you are persisting those messages here in Hadoop, then you also need to have a purge service which will regularly clean up for the messages which has been delivered, because we do not want to do it on real time. So that this is how the entire messaging will work. Personal messaging service, group messaging service, both will be connected to attachment service for storing the files such as videos and images that are shared, and any sort of documents also. So this is the design. Let's revise back. Users, gateway or load balancer connected to a BFF layer which contains of some web sockets and authentication service. There is an identity service which is for user management, profile service for maintaining profile sort of information, socket handler for managing which user is connected to what socket, group service, group messaging service for messaging across groups, personal messaging service for for messaging one-on-one, group service responsible for doing the operations at group level, Kafka queue, this is what both of them are connected to. They can be different as well, or you can have a single Kafka server with multiple topics into it. Purge service for data cleanup, attachment service responsible for all file storage, identity service connected to a Redis and Mongo sort of DB, profile service will have an RDBMS, maybe Postgres, service only for maintaining which users are part of which group, can use RDBMS or NoSQL as well depending on the scale, but I think RDBMS should be fine here. And this is where we'll store Hadoop in case if we want to store out the messages. And remember, anything such as Redis can have a multi-cluster as well, so that there is no single point of failure in the system. Similarly, in case of databases as well, we can have a client server or a reader writer sort of architecture everywhere. So that these are, so it's like when you have a database, that means this is a database layer which has their own properties such as multiple nodes, etc. So this is how WhatsApp system design will work as a simple system for a large scale. In case if you have any questions or comments, please post them out into the comment section and I'll be happy to respond to them. Thanks for your time.